Start now. So first of all, as usual, we will take up the question of last week and try to give model answer for that, because as you know, last week we completed the topic of empiricism, and we covered Berkeley and Hume last week. Before that, we covered Locke. Before that, we have also covered rationalism and also Plato and Aristotle in Western philosophy. So today we are going to start Kant, but before that, we will see the question. Just I want to tell all of you, Kant is one of the most important philosophers in Western philosophy. Usually, one full question or sometimes one and a half question also comes from Kant. And not only for Western philosophy paper, that is philosophy optional, Western philosophy, but also for GS4 ethics, it is very, very important uh, because his moral uh, topic, that is deontology, categorical imperatives, all the students study in GS4 also. That is also very, very important there. So we will deal with Kant in that way. But before that, we will see the model answer for the question of last week. But before that, I just want to make another announcement. I have posted in the groups also. Tomorrow, we are having the class for GS4 ethics, same time 9 p.m. And thereafter, every Sunday, we will be having the class from 9 to 10 or 9 to 10:15, 10:30, depends which topic we are taking up. In ethics, we will be covering case studies, we will be covering the topics. Tomorrow, it will be introductory class. So mostly we will deal with what should be our strategy for ethics paper, what should be our strategy for case studies, and we'll also try to formulate a course of action for next 5-6 months, how we want to proceed as far as ethics is concerned. As I've already announced earlier, from the month of, just after prelims, from the last week of May or first week of June, we are also going to start test series for those students who are going to appear this year's mains or who have already appeared in this year's prelims. We are going to start a test series free of cost for philosophy and ethics also. And I'm also seeing the possibility if GS other papers test series can be started. So that also we'll be doing mostly from first week of June or last week of May, just after the prelims are over. So this I just want to make an announcement that all the students who are interested in joining, they may wait for the announcement, because next month, that is the month of May, we will be making announcement regarding that, and we'll also tell the procedure for joining that test series. I have also told earlier, the students who are in Delhi, they can join that in offline mode also if they are interested. For other students, they will be definitely joining online, and their answer sheets will be evaluated, model answers will be provided, and it should be a real exam-like experience for all the students. With this announcement, I would now like to take up the model answers for last week's question. Last week, we had two questions, one from Berkeley, another from Hume, and we will see how this model answers are shaped now. Okay, so we'll come up for the last week's question. What was the question of the week 7? Let us see first that. If we see, there were two questions. One was Berkeley's idealism, that is, discuss his statement as est percipi. And second question was Hume, regarding Hume's skepticism, or is Hume a skeptic? And I requested that in 400 words that can be written. So we will see the model answers for these two questions first before we start Kant. Now, let us go to Berkeley. See, the question was discuss assessed percipi or Berkeley's idealism. We know that Berkeley was an empiricist philosopher uh, just after Locke, because Locke has given, I mean, Locke was the first philosopher who propagated empiricism. Thereafter, Berkeley came. He basically modified a number of theories of Locke. So basically, he gave the theory. I mean, before that, if we see Locke has given the representationist theory of uh, perception, that is empiricism, that there is substance, there is mind perceives the substance through ideas, and this is what Locke has told. Now, Berkeley argued that such theories are not logically correct because there is no connection between ideas and objects. He gave a theory of immaterialism, that there is no matter, there is no material which is existing. He asserted that only mind and their ideas exist. So, according to him, the perceiver exists, that is mind, and perceived, that is ideas or experiences exists. Berkeley clearly rejected the existence of any material substance. According to him, his immaterialism upholds common sense, science, religion, etc. Now, let us try to explain what is this, because this little introduction and little about Berkeley's immaterialism, and then we'll come to assessed percipi, what it means actually. In English, it means to be is to be perceived. Now, if any object exists, it must be perceived. So he told ideas to be is to be perceived, and mind to be is to perceive. So mind actually perceives and ideas are perceived. So this is his reality, basically. All reality, as per Berkeley, is either a conscious mind or the ideas within that. There is no material, and this is what he meant by assessed percipi. Now, interestingly, even though God is not perceived directly, but Berkeley believed in God. Berkeley's idealism doesn't believe in matter, but it believes in God. Why? Now, this is very interesting thing if we see, because the issue was, if perception sustains existence, what happens when no one perceives an object? Does it cease to exist? This was the questions which was asked by his critics also, that if you say that something exists only when it is perceived, so what happens when nobody is perceiving that thing? For example, in a forest, a tree falls. So he gave the statement, or he actually tried to rationalize that if no human or animal hears it or perceives it, the God perceives. So God's perception maintains the reality. So Berkeley's idealism basically incorporates theism, and theism comes because then God becomes the ultimate perceiver, and that ensures the continuity of universe. Because if God is not there, then to be is to be perceived becomes incomplete, basically. So Berkeley has given in detail arguments for assessed percipi. Now, in a way, assessed percipi and immaterialism are same thing also, or very, very closely interrelated. I mean, same thing explained in different ways. So that, therefore, you may see in the answer, immaterialism has been used a number of times. Now, he gave the arguments for per CP, there are 4 arguments which he has given, that perception defines existence, the illusion of distance perception, the source of ideas, and continuous existence through divine perception. Divine perception means same thing. The God exists, that ensures continuous existence of the ideas. So Berkeley concludes that existence necessarily depends on being perceived either by finite spirit, that is human beings, or by infinite being, that is God. What are its parallels? I mean, because I have already told that whenever you discuss with Western philosophy, if some parallels you can draw with Indian philosophy and the question is of 20 marks, you should definitely mention some one paragraph or few lines for that. So and similarly, if you are dealing with Indian philosophy question, if you can draw some parallel from Western philosophy, you should mention that also. Then again, from modern science and technology, if some related points you can write in 2-3 lines or 4 lines, that also is quite valid and relevant, because that will give an edge to your answer, because others may not be writing that. And what you are writing is actually should be related to that topic or the subject, because unnecessarily you should not write, because then it will be a problem. So that also you should understand. So now, what are parallels in philosophy as far as Berkeley's idealism? If we see, Berkeley's idealism is quite close to Advaita Vedanta and Yogachara Buddhism, because both in a way have told that external objects do not exist. Advaita Vedanta says that it's illusion. Yogachara Buddhism says external objects do not exist outside consciousness, because all reality is mind dependent, just like Berkeley. But then there is another Nyaya school, Nyaya Vaisesika school in Indian philosophy. They basically say that matter exists really or independently, and they are, opposing basically the Berkeley's theory. So in Indian philosophy, we have parallels and we have also opposition to Berkeley's theory. Then modern science, again, what quantum mechanics says, what neuroscience says, what simulated reality says. I have included all this, but in actual writing, because this answer, again, I'm repeating, usually model answers, what I give is usually little longer than actually you need to write in the exam, because more points are included. But definitely these points, while you make your own notes, please include these points as a bullet point, so that you are at least able to some extent cover that, because all words, everything need not be covered, because then it will become longer answer. But the points need to be definitely covered. So just for explanation of that points, I have written some other sentences which are extra, so that please note that whatever answers I'm giving, basically point wise, if you go, it's quite perfect answer. So neuroscience and then simulated reality hypothesis. So there are, I'm not going in detail, you can read it and you can find partly, again, it supports Berkeley's idealism, and then partly it opposes that. Then what are criticisms? Because in any answer, if you are writing, critical evaluation is must. What is critical evaluation? There has to be a criticism by contemporary philosophers, subsequent philosophers, and then there are concluding remarks. What does it mean actually? How it's useful to future uh, uh, philosophy, or to that contemporary times, how it has been useful. So G. Moore, he basically uh, he has criticized Berkeley that Berkeley is confusing perception with existence. It's a very important point. I will just uh, try to see. Berkeley confuses perception with existence. This is what Moore says. Just because something is perceived does not mean that perception creates existence. So this is the Moore's criticism, and it appears it's quite important criticism. Then again, neo-realists and critical realists, they claim that objects do exist independent of mind, and knowledge of an object does not determine its existence. So this is again realists and neo-realists. They are saying scientific challenges, we have seen earlier. I mean, previous paper, this previous page, this is what modern science says. So basically, scientific challenges, while quantum mechanics suggests an observer effect, microscopic physics operates independently of perception. So partly it, uh, I mean, uh, agrees to what Berkeley has told, and partly it rejects his theory. So basically, Berkeley's as a per CP remains one of the most radical and influential philosophical doctrines. We know, I mean, he was very important philosopher. If Indian philosophy you see, Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism, they are quite close to his ideas. But again, Nyaya philosophy, Nyaya Vaisesik, they are not in terms with what Berkeley has told. He also finds partial support in quantum physics and neurosciences from modern science. So uh, basically, part of it, definitely Berkeley philosophy is supported, part of it, it's opposed. So ultimately, Berkeley's immaterialism raises profound questions. We know, I mean, it's very, very important. And if we see subsequently what Hume has done or Kant has done, then we will realize his philosophy was very important. Now, what is second question? Uh, this is uh, the question was, is Hume a skeptic? Or we have to, suppose the question comes, write a detailed note on Hume's skepticism. Or is Hume a skeptic philosopher? Or does Hume's philosophy leads to skepticism? So all these questions will have almost same answers. So again, Hume was a Scottish philosopher. We have, I mean, earlier when we last week when we studied Hume, we could understand he has been given very revolutionary kind of theories, because he has not only opposed innate ideas. Innate ideas we know was proposed by rationalist philosophers, that mind has some innate ideas and that creates knowledge. So he not only opposes innate ideas, but also he has opposed inductive reasoning and causality. So he says that there is no logical or rational connection between the cause and effect, or one our previous experience to future experience, but it stems from only habit and custom. So it's habitual or customary. Therefore, we understand that there is a cause and effect. So basically, he has refused to approve inductive reasoning and causality. So actually, if we see Hume, I mean, this is again an important sentence, because sometimes it comes with for detailed explanation also, or 150 words question may come. Hume maintained that human behavior is governed by passion rather than reason. So this is what Hume's theory. Reason governs human behavior was maintained by rationalists. He says that rather than reason, it is governed by passion. And he has given a statement: reason is and ought only to be slave of passions. This is what his statement is. So sometimes this statement also comes in exam. So that also we should keep in mind. This is given by Hume, that reason is slave of passion, basically, what he says. Uh, Now, as we know, uh, he has negated inductive reasoning, he has negated causality. So definitely there is a doubt that his theory is skepticism, or it leads to skepticism, because once you start doubting, then you are questioning the self or the reason or even God also. So everything else you will be questioning. So ultimately, if we see how Hume's skepticism leads to all these things, uh, see, but before we go to Hume's skepticism, skepticism itself is divided in two, or basically two kinds. Basically, one is radical skepticism, another is moderate skepticism. Radical, the belief that knowledge is impossible. This is radical skepticism, that no knowledge is possible. We cannot gain any knowledge. And so the moderate, what is moderate skepticism? That one should suspend the judgment due to inadequacy of evidence. So at this point of time, knowledge is not possible, but subsequently knowledge may be possible once we get the substantial evidence, once we get. Now, in which category Hume's skepticism falls actually? Now, this is the question now. So our analysis says, or you will write in the answer, that Hume's skepticism falls in second category. That it's not a radical skepticism, it's a moderate kind of skepticism. So Hume is definitely a skeptic philosopher, but Hume's skepticism is a moderate skepticism. Why? Because he has rejected metaphysics, theology, and rational psychology. Because he says that disciplines like metaphysics and rational psychology rely on unverifiable speculation rather than empirical evidence. So this is what Hume told. So therefore, uh, he falls in moderate skepticism. Now, second, I have already told he has criticized causality and induction also. This also is one of the reasons he leads to moderate skepticism. Now, what is modern philosophical perspective on Hume? Let us understand that also. What various other philosophers, how they have evaluated Hume's skepticism. Uh, there are two major interpretations of this. This is also important. Because this will actually evaluate how much skeptic or Hume was or his philosophy was. So now Immanuel Kant, Kant actually we are going to study today, very, very important philosophers I have already told. So Kant saw Hume's argument as a threat to scientific knowledge because Hume has says that there is no cause and effect relationship. So Kant says that if there is no cause and effect relationship, no science is possible. So he saw Hume's argument, big threat to science basically. And therefore, Kant devoted his, his one book he has written, Critique of Pure Reason, arguing that causality is possible, how it is possible, despite the fact that Hume has opposed it. Now, second, modern philosophers A.J. Ayer and Rudolf Carnap, they basically, and also Russell and Quinn viewed Hume's skepticism as constructive rather than destructive. So these logical positivist philosophers, they say that Hume's skepticism is constructive rather than destructive. Another philosopher, modern philosopher called Popper, he basically built on Hume's critique of induction, proposing falsification theory. So this is again, he improved upon Hume's critique of induction. Then another group of modern philosophers, Richard Rorty, Hilary Putnam, Nelson Goldman, argue that Hume's skepticism demonstrates the limits of rational certainty, though in practical life we function without absolute proof. So basically, modern philosophy sees human not as a nihilist skeptic, but as a cautious empiricist. So again, cautious empiricist means he falls in the category of modern or moderate skepticism. So basically, uh, Hume's philosophy falls in category of moderate skepticism. Now, how Hume's philosophy compares with Indian philosophy? This Charvak and Buddhism partly supports that. Charvak almost fully supports, but Nyaya again, Nyaya and Vaisesik, they are not in tune with Hume's philosophy. So Hume's, this you can go through, but I'm just reading the conclusion. Hume's philosophy basically aligns with Buddhism and materialist tradition. Materialist tradition in Indian philosophy means Charvak philosophy, because Charvak was considered a materialist philosopher. Uh, but it gets a position from Indian rationalist thought. Rationalist thought means Nyaya Vaisesik is one that is cool. Now, how science views the Hume's skepticism. So again, probability and uncertainty in science, falsifiability in philosophy of science and cognitive science, all this, if we see, so Hume's skepticism challenged certain scientific assumptions. His insights have profoundly influenced modern probabilistic reasoning, cognitive science, and scientific methodology. So, what is final conclusion? Whether Hume was a skeptic or not, and to what extent. So, Hume conclusion is Hume was not a radical skeptic. He was a moderate, despite his criticism of induction, causality, certainty, reason, innate idea, and all those things. Because why? The reason is, see, I mean, you have to prove that he was a moderate. Partly reason have been given in previous paragraphs, but here also, see, he accepted mathematics as providing certain and indubitable knowledge. This is one reason. Second, unlike extreme skeptics, he applied skepticism mainly to theoretical knowledge, not to daily life. So this is again a point in Hume's philosophy which makes him not a radical skeptic. He acknowledges the limits of reason, but did not entirely reject the possibility of knowledge. So therefore, N.K. Smith, Strauss, and Barry Stroud argue that Hume is better understood as a naturalist than the skeptic. So this statement also is quite important in writing answers. So basically, this is what we have to write, or all the points we have to cover in writing Hume's skepticism. Now we come to today's philosophers, Immanuel Kant. But before we go to Kant, let us again understand what is there in the syllabus, because usually syllabus is very important. And as I keep on telling, before studying any topic, please be very clear what is there in the syllabus, how questions have, what are the previous year's questions, how questions have come, and then only your study can be focused study. So if we see Kant, see, possibility of synthetic a priori judgments, then space-time, then categories, then ideas of reason, then antinomies, then critiques of proofs of existence of God. So all these topics are covered in Kant. So this we have to basically read in today's this thing. Now, what are PYQs? What happens in PYQs as far as Kant is concerned? So this is the 12 years question paper. Last 12 years we have analyzed. I have analyzed, and now if we see Kant, again these things are same which is written in the syllabus. Now you see synthetic a priori judgments. How many times it has come? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times it has come in last about 10 to 12 years. So almost every alternate year it has been asked. Then again, antinomy. See, 1, 2, 3, 3 times. Then Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber. This statement, just to critically examine this statement of Kant. So again, this also 2 times it has come. Then if we see Kant's objection against ontological argument of existence of God, again 2 times. And actually last year also one question of 15 marks was there on this. Then Kant's criticism of proofs of existence of God, again if we see 2 times. So Kant is very, very important philosopher. Kant's critical philosophy, again if we see Kant's critical philosophy, again 2 years, so 23 and 16 it has come. Then Kant's argument for transcendence of space and time, this also 2 times it has come. So basically Kant has been quite frequently repeated and is very, very important philosopher as far as philosophy papers are optional subject is concerned, and as far as ethics is concerned, because GS4 ethics is concerned, Kant's deontology is studied very, very closely in ethics paper. Now, after analyzing all this, what are the topics which we will want to study in Kant? So as I keep on telling, after analyzing syllabus as well as PYQs, you have to arrive at the topics, important topics of that philosopher which you have to read. Now, Kant, you see. Critical philosophy, that is criticism, we have to study. Synthetic a priori judgments, we have to see. Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber, this statement we have to examine. Then Kant's philosophy known as Copernicus revolution in metaphysics, this we have to see. Then antinomy we have to see. Then how Kant tries to reconcile rationalism and empiricism we have to see. Then Kantian dictum, understanding makes nature. This also we have to examine. Then critiques for proofs of existence of God, and then phenomena and noumena. So basically, how many? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 topics are important topics in Kant. So very, very important. Now, what we will do is, again today, first we will briefly understand the philosophy of Kant, and then these important topics we will dwell in little more detail so that we just understand. So it will take some time, but today we'll complete Kant, so that today we are completing the Western philosophy, and from next Indian philosophy. Uh, Now in Western philosophy, after Kant, some 3, 4 other uh, topics are there which are left. I request all of you to go through on your own, because now this covers about 60 to 70% of the whole syllabus. So therefore, now we'll start Indian philosophy, and then we'll continue uh, for another 2 months. But before Indian philosophy, okay, we will have Hegel also, because Kant, after that, Kant, Hegel also we will do. And then after Hegel, we will, so next we are going to take up Hegel. And then after that, we will start Indian philosophy. Okay, so now let us go to Kant. See, Kant's philosophy is called critical philosophy. Why? Because he tries to criticize both rationalism and empiricism. As we know, rationalism, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz; empiricism, Locke, Berkeley, Hume, all were the philosophers previous to Kant. So, uh, Kant criticized both uh, rationalism and empiricism, and tries to synthesize a synthesis of both. So, therefore, he is called a critical philosopher, or basically his philosophy is called a critical philosophy. Now he has written some very important 3, 4 books, and each book actually explores a different topics. For example, Critique of Pure Reason, it examines foundations of limits of human knowledge. Critique of Practical Reason develops his moral philosophy. Critique of Judgment explores aesthetics and teleology. Metaphysics of Morals discusses ethics and political philosophy. Now, the fundamental questions which can't, which are answered in these books also, that also, for example, what can I know? Theory of knowledge, that is epistemology. It is answered in Critique of Pure Reason. What should I do? Critique of Practical Reason, that is ethics. Ethics is covered in Critique of Practical Reason. This is deontology is covered in Critique of Practical Reason, which is a topic of GS4 basically, because ethics questions usually are not asked in philosophy optional. So basically, what is critical philosophy of Kant? Let us try to understand how he has reconciled rationalism and empiricism. See, before Kant, we know, we have already studied this. Rationalism was promoted by Descartes, Leibniz, and Spinoza. Now, what they believed? They believed that reason and innate knowledge comes from reason and innate ideas. So that was the theory of rationalism. For example, some truths, mathematics, metaphysics, science, etc., can be known independently of experience. That is a priori knowledge. So they gave the theory of a priori knowledge. So this is what rationalism told. What empiricism says, Locke, Berkeley, and Hume, that knowledge comes from experience and sensory perception. They rejected innate ideas. They told that mind in the beginning is a clean slate, blank slate, that is called tabula rasa. This was a statement of Locke. We have already seen that. Now, what Kant did? Kant synthesized these views by arguing that empiricists were right that knowledge begins with experience. Rationalists were right that knowledge also requires concepts of understanding. But both were wrong in assuming that their approach alone was sufficient. So he gave a statement. Kant has given one famous statement: percepts without concepts are blind. and concepts without percepts are empty. What is percept? Percept is basically perception, that is sensory input. What is concept? Concept of understanding is basically mental input. So he says that percepts without concepts are blind and concepts without percepts are empty. So this is the statement of Kant. Sometimes this statement also comes that explain it or critically evaluate it or elaborate it. So like that question may come. Now, synthetic a priori judgments. Let us understand what is that. In brief here, we will understand. Then subsequently, because some 4 or 5 topics I will be dealing in much more detail because they are very important as far as Kant is concerned. So what is synthetic a priori judgments? See, before Kant, what has happened? There were rationalists. They believed in a priori and analytic. So analytic a priori was promoted by uh, rationalists. Synthetic a posteriori was promoted by uh, empiricists, because this dependent on experience, this is dependent on reason. Now Kant tried to introduce a third category, that is synthetic a priori judgments, because earlier it was believed that all analytics judgments are a priori and all synthetic judgments are a posteriori. Now Kant says, no, there are third kind of judgment. There are some synthetic judgments which may be a priori also. So this is what Kant's philosophy or Kant's new category, if you can say. Now these judgments are, I mean, what are the basically synthetic a priori judgments quality? If we see, first point is they are necessary and universal, just like a priori knowledge. A priori knowledge is certain, necessary, universal. Then what is synthetic judgments? Synthetic means depending on experience. What is synthetic judgment? It's informative and non-trivial. So this is again, then yet this is independent of experience. So he gave a theory that there is some knowledge which is synthetic a priori, which is independent of experience, but still it adds to knowledge, it's informative, it's necessary, it's universal. For example, examples also he has given himself. For example, mathematics. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. So, which means 12 is not contained in concept 7 and 5. Therefore, this statement is necessarily true. And this is synthetic a priori statement. Similarly, in physics, every event has a cause. This principle is not derived from experience alone. It structures our experience itself. So, he says that because of synthetic a priori judgments, mathematics and physics can provide certain knowledge about the world. So this is what was his theory. Now, he also told that space and time are a priori forms of intuition. Space and time. A priori forms of intuition means they are present in mind itself. So, in category, as a category of understanding. So this is what his theory was. Space and time are a priori forms, and along with space and time, there are certain other categories also Kant told, roughly about 12 categories. For example, the mind applies 12 categories of understanding. So these are the 12 categories which are available in the human mind, and our experience would be are actually organized and made intelligible by these categories. So this is what Kant's theory was. So space, time, quantity, quality, relation, all these things make the experience in a way, I mean, basically organize the experience and make intelligible, which becomes the knowledge. So this is what Kant's theory of a priori forms or categories of understanding. Now, he has also given the theory of phenomena versus noumena. He has shown that limits of knowledge, that is, knowledge is limited up to phenomena only. That is physical word. We will understand what is phenomena and noumena. See, phenomena is the word as we experience. Noumena is the word as it exists in itself. So, real word. So, if you remember, his theory is just like something like Advaita Vedanta or Plato's forms or something like that. That thing in itself, which is beyond our perception, beyond human perception. So this is called noumena. And phenomena is actually the experience or the word which we perceive. So he says that we cannot know things as they truly are. So if you again remember Plato, he also gave almost similar kind of thing, a theory of forms. The real forms we don't know, we know only the replica. So he also says that we cannot know things as they truly are, only how they appear to us, that is known to us. So there is a limit of human reason. We can know the things only how they appear, and how those things are actually, we don't know. Now we will come to Kant's ethics and categorical imperative. See, Kant's ethics and categorical imperative is actually called in ethics deontology. Deontology is basically duty-based ethics. If somebody is duty bound to do something, he has to do. For example, in Gita also, I mean, if you are duty bound, you have to fight with your own relatives. You are duty bound, you have to do something which as per duty you are supposed to do. So this is called deontology. So that is linked with categorical imperatives. What is categorical imperative? Uh, Categorical imperative is universal moral law, which means if something you feel that universally it should be applied to everybody, that is categorical imperative for Kant, and that is his moral philosophy in a way. So he has given a statement: act only according to that maxim whereby you can will that it should become a universal law. So, for example, truth. If speaking truth is important, it should be made universal. So then truth is basically a categorical imperative. Similarly, I mean, any duty you can, I mean, any value you can add, that if that can be made universal without any problem, that should be categorical imperative. So unlike utilitarian, I mean, utilitarianism, you know, Bentham and Mill, some of you might have studied that maximum good to maximum people. That is utilitarian philosophy, which was started by Bentham, and then Mill formulated that, G.S. Mill. This is also one of the very important topics in GS4 ethics. Now, that is also called consequential theory. That what basically utilitarian judges is consequence. Now, Kantian ethics asserts that morality is based on duty. So there is totally basically different things. So it's rational duty. So this is basically moral philosophy of Kant in a very brief sense. And this has been described in Critique of Pure Practical Reason. Critique of Practical Reason is one of the books of the Kant, and in that it has been mentioned. Now, Kant also uh, criticized metaphysics, and accordingly, God, soul, and free will, he has given uh, various arguments. And his most famous is basically, if you understand, see, this question also has come several times. Kant refuted traditional proofs of God's existence. What are traditional proofs? Traditional proofs are ontological proof, cosmological proof, teleological proof. So these are basically uh, traditional proofs of existence of God. So ontological basically says that if some perfect being exists, then perfection itself should include that he exists. Cosmological, there is a prime mover cause. I mean, if uh, cause is there has to be a prime cause, so God exists as a prime cause. Teleological means if nature suggests a designer, then he should be God. So basically, these three, ontological, cosmological, and teleological, these are three traditional arguments. Ontological argument was uh, advocated by Saint Anselm and Descartes also. Then how Kant actually rejected all the three arguments in different way. So he only But one important thing is, even though he rejected the argument, but he did not reject the existence of God. Kant says that existence of God is important. God exists, but these three arguments cannot prove existence of God. So he says that God, free will, and the soul are necessary moral postulates. So basically, he has given moral argument for existence of God. That God exists because morality requires that. So this is what Kant has given. Uh, Now, next point will come very brief. We will in detail again. We will come up because these are important topics. So in detail again, we are going to cover. Now, Kant's Copernican revolution in philosophy. This also one of the question was also there. What is Copernican revolution? So basically, regarding knowledge and object, he basically turned everything 180 degree. So just like Copernicus, before Copernicus, what was there? That sun revolves around earth. What Copernicus did? No, earth revolves around sun. So basically, uh, in that sense, it has been told that Kant's philosophy was a Copernican revolution in metaphysics. How? Before Kant, philosophers assumed that knowledge conforms to objects. So this was the thinking of philosophers before Kant. Knowledge conforms to objects. That if some object is there, X, Y, Z, then knowledge should conform to object. What Kant did, he reversed. Objects conform to our way of knowing. So he reversed the whole thing. So therefore, his philosophy is called Copernican revolution in metaphysics. Then again, let us understand this. Objects conform to our way of knowing. This statement, understanding makes nature, both are same. So objects conform to what are physical objects, what is material objects, they conform to our way of knowing. Means understanding makes nature. So if question comes, elaborate understanding makes nature, this is what Copernican revolution, this is what Kant's thinking, that earlier knowledge was conforming to objects. Kant reversed it, that objects conform to our way of knowing, and understanding makes nature. So what he says, mind actively organizes experience. Knowledge depends on both sensory experience and rational structure, and we shape our reality through cognitive faculties. So this is what Kant, as far as knowledge and Copernican revolution is there. Then this is conclusion. So now we'll go to some 4-5 important topics which are very important from exam point of view. In detail, we will examine. So in brief, we have understood what Kant's philosophy was. Now let us go in little detail. So I will try to cover very quickly. Kant's philosophy is called critical philosophy. We know why, because he synthesized rationalism and empiricism, and he has basically you see, as we know, he has his statement that precepts without concepts are blind, and concepts without precepts are empty. So this is what he told as far as experience and reason both are concerned, or rationalism and empiricism are concerned. So therefore, what is Kant's critical philosophy? He another statement which comes usually, what Kant has said is, Hume's skepticism about causality awakened Kant from his dogmatic slumber. So this is again an important thing, because sometimes it comes to again elaborate and what does it mean? Because this led to him for Copernican revolution in philosophy. Instead of assuming that knowledge conforms to reality, uh, reality conforms to cognitive structures of human mind. So this is Copernican revolution. We have already read, but in different statement, different wording, same thing has been written. What was the conflict of rationalism and empiricism? We know basically rationalism, they say that it's innate ideas and its reason is important and all knowledge is a priori. Empiricism says that all it comes from experience, mind is totally blank, and again, Locke, Berkeley, and Hume. And Berkeley says it leads to moderate skepticism also. Now, Kant says that, this is Kant's criticism, that rationalism overestimated reason, leading to dogmatism. Empiricism led to skepticism. So basically, both needs to be synthesized. So what is Kant's synthesis? Kant sought a middle ground, that both reason and experience are essential for knowledge. So this was Kant's important finding. Now, he said that knowledge arises from experience, and innate cognitive structures basically process that knowledge and uh, make it an organized form. So content of knowledge and form of knowledge, there are two things. Content of knowledge comes from experience, form of knowledge comes from reason, that is mind. So this is what Kant's synthesis of or critical philosophy, or synthesis of empiricism and rationalism, you can say. Mind actively structures experience through a priori categories. There are 12 a priori categories we know. Already we have categories of understanding. So these are a priori categories, are also called a priori categories. They include space, time, causality, and substance, etc. Then synthetic a priori judgments enable scientific knowledge, as we have seen already, because maths and science is possible uh, because of synthetic a priori judgments only. Even though Hume says that causality or induction is not true, but this synthetic a priori judgments ensures that scientific and mathematical knowledge is possible, which is universally true also. Uh, so basically, Kant criticized both rationalism and empiricism. Against rationalism, as I've already told, concepts without precepts are empty. So this is against rationalism. Then against empiricism, percepts without concepts are blind. So in answer writing, you need to use these statements also, because unless you quote these statements, your answer will not be strong enough to appeal the examiner. So this also you should know. Then Kant basically, same thing, knowledge emerges only when concepts and sensory experience function together. So basically, his philosophy is critical philosophy. His philosophy is synthetic philosophy, synthesis of both rationalism and empiricism. Now, if we compare with modern science and Indian philosophy, again, Indian philosophy offers basically Advaita Vedanta and Buddhist epistemology. Partly uh, it agrees with Kant, partly it doesn't agree. Modern science also uh, some support and some challenges to Kant's framework, so that we can go through. Uh, so basically, his philosophy is one of the most influential philosophies, uh, and still it keeps on refining the contemporary thoughts as far as uh, knowledge is concerned. Now, what is its critical evaluation of this whole? Because as I've already told, once you describe something, you have to critically evaluate that what is its criticism, what is value, how it's useful. So all those things you need to write. So uh, big criticism was there from uh, basically subsequent philosophers. First criticism is uh, the distinction between noumena and phenomena. You have already read that. See, he says phenomena is the word which we experience, and noumena is the word which we don't experience, but it's available in itself. So this has been criticized for rendering ultimate reality unknowable. And this is a strong criticism. Even Hume has criticized that, and others have criticized. Then a priori rigidity of a priori categories is again an important criticism, because Kant says that there are some categories which are predefined. Now, only those categories limit possibility of alternative cognitive structures. So this is again a criticism. Then issue of ethics. Kant's deontological ethics is again because if you are studying GS4 ethics paper, you will know that in many situations, many case studies, many scenarios, deontological ethics cannot be applied. So, because it emphasizes duty over consequences. So sometimes, because you have to deal with consequences, you have to deal with virtue ethics, you have to deal with basically uh, other legal issues, and therefore his ethics also has been criticized accordingly. Then Nietzsche and other existentialists, they have criticized Kant that he fosters a form of subjectivism, because his emphasis on mind and its categories is very strong. So that basically becomes a form of subjectivism. So these are the criticism. But despite all this, he is one of the most influential philosophers in the Western philosophy, that we should know. Now, another thing which we will read is in detail is synthetic a priori judgments. Partly we have already, because see, one more thing, in any philosopher, his various theories or his various ideas are in a way interrelated. So that also we should understand. So there are overlapping explanations, there are inter linkages also. So what we say in synthetic a priori judgments, partly it will be also covered in critical philosophy, partly it also will be covered understanding makes its nature. So all those things we should know, because it's not that if one thing is asked, other thing need not be mentioned, because everything is interrelated. So now synthetic a priori judgments. Again, same thing will come, that rationalists, they basically believed that uh, knowledge is a priori, analytic, and necessary. This was basically believed by rationalists. Empiricists believed basically uh, knowledge is matter of fact, that is empirical, a posteriori. So this was distinction between these two streams of philosophies. Kant believed, true knowledge must have three qualities. That is, it should be necessary, it should be universal, and it should be novel. That is, add something new. So add something new means it should be synthetic, universal and necessary means it should be a priori. Because a priori has the quality that it is necessary, it is universal, and synthetic means basically uh, a posteriori, that is, it should be new. So he introduced the concept of synthetic a priori to describe judgments that meet all three conditions, because this is the definition of knowledge as far as Kant is concerned. So he says that knowledge is possible only through synthetic a priori judgments. What is difference between a priori and a posteriori? This is also important, but one of the videos also I have already posted. So a priori is basically knowledge dependent on reason. It's basically it's already contained in this statement. For no experience is required for a priori knowledge. A posteriori knowledge is basically based on experience, and it is contingent knowledge. It's not necessary, it's not universal. So these are differences between a priori and a posteriori. What is difference between analytic and synthetic judgments? Again, usually a priori judgments are analytic judgments. So in analytic judgments, predicate is contained in the subject. That is, for example, all bachelors are unmarried. So this already unmarried is contained in bachelor. No experience, no perception, no sensory experience is required. Synthetic judgment, the predicate adds something new and not contained in the subject. Sky is blue. You have to observe that sky is blue. Rose is red. You have to observe that rose is red. So basically, that is synthetic judgment. Now, what was Kant's project? How are a synthetic a priori judgments possible? This is Kant's central concern. Now, he asserted that what is genuine knowledge? Already we have seen these three: necessary, universality, and novelty are the characteristics of genuine knowledge. So, knowledge has to be synthetic a priori, that is necessary, universal, and informative. So this is quality of knowledge. He also says that mathematics is synthetic a priori, because mathematical truths are, again, same example. This is given by Kant himself, that 7 plus 5 is equal to 12, where 12 is not included in 7. This is new knowledge. Then again, geometry also he says that this is a new knowledge. Natural sciences also he says, every event has a cause, is new knowledge. And Kant believed that space and times and categories of understanding makes physics possible as science grounded in synthetic a priori knowledge. So this is what Kant's belief. Categories of understanding, forms of intuition make the synthetic a priori knowledge possible, because synthetic a priori knowledge definitely cannot be obtained through experience. Experience can only give a knowledge which is not universal or which is not necessary. But then, as Kant's this thing is, that knowledge has to be necessary, universal, and informative. Now, again, he comes up with limits of metaphysics and synthetic a priori. He says that rational science of metaphysics is not possible, because his distinction between phenomena and nomina, if you understand. Because phenomena is a physical word, nomina is beyond physical word. So he says that metaphysics deals with those subjects which are beyond this world, and therefore real knowledge is not possible. Synthetic a priori knowledge is not at all possible. Now, let us critically evaluate this theory. Kant's assertion that mathematics and science rest on synthetic a priori judgments basically united the empiricism and rationalism, that is good. But empiricists and logical positivists, they rejected the synthetic a priori knowledge. They said, no, this is not correct. What A.J. Iyer says, all a priori judgments are analytic and all synthetic judgments are a posteriori, his theory. He criticized Kant's use of subject-predicate form and claimed that some judgments, like relational ones, do not fit this mold. Iyer also accused Kant of confusing psychological insight with logical necessity. This is again a very important criticism if you see. He can't confuse psychological insight with logical necessity. Just that because we see 7 plus 5 is equal to 12 only by performing a mental operation does not mean it is synthetic. So this is what modern philosopher Iyer says. Now, despite such critiques, there are supporters also. For example, Brouwer supported Kant's view, insisting that mathematical truths are constructed intuitively and are not reducible to analytic truths alone. So basically, Kant is very important philosopher. His philosophy has inspired almost subsequent philosophers. Absolutely, there is no doubt about that. Similarly, this knowledge regarding synthetic a priori judgments, etc., has not only influenced mathematics, science, physics, etc., but also involved future philosophers, whether they have criticized that or whether they have developed on that or supported that. Definitely everybody is involved in that. Now, another important topic is Kant's antinomies. What is antinomy? This is a Greek word. Anti means against, nomos means law. A contradiction between two principles or conclusions, both of which appear logically valid. So Kant says, what is antinomy? There are two conclusions or two principles which are opposite to each other, but both appear true or both appear legally valid, logically valid. So this is called antinomy in the formulation of Kant. Now, for example, if you see, he has given few examples also. For example, the world has a beginning in time and is limited in space. This is one thesis. What is the antithesis? The world has no beginning and no spatial limits. Antithesis. So Kant says that here thesis also appears to be true, and antithesis also appears to be true, because you will not find any evidence or any supportive evidence. Only argument means you can argue either way. That word, this word was having beginning or having no beginning. For example, similarly, everything consists of simple parts or nothing consists of simple parts. Or free will exists or all events are determined. Or a necessary being exists or no necessary being exists. Necessary being means God, basically. So what he says that in all these cases, if we argue either way, we can prove it. So both thesis and antithesis both appear to be true. And this is called antinomy. So a contradiction between two principles or conclusions, both of which appear logically valid, is antinomy. Now, why this happens basically? So what Kant says, because again it has to be linked with phenomena and noumena. Because if you start talking about nominal things, you will not be able to prove anything, because then either way it can be proved, because this is beyond the domain of human knowledge. This is what he says. So only things which are limited to phenomena, the experience of this world, can be basically argued upon or can be proved with some evidence. Nominal things or whatever exists this beyond of the physical world, noumena, cannot be experienced, cannot be proved either way, and both theories appear to be true. But this has been criticized also. For example, one of the critics was Hegel himself, because Hegel, again, we are going to study next week. So Hegel says that yes, okay, it's good that thesis exists and antithesis exists, but then Hegel has given another theory that thesis and antithesis make synthesis. And it comes dialectical idealism. So there is a dialectic between thesis and antithesis, and it leads to dialectical idealism, that is synthesis. So this was, so what Hegel says, that contradictions should not be avoided but embraced and resolved dialectically. So according to him, Kant's philosophy was incomplete unless the thesis and antithesis comes to synthesis. What Schopenhauer says, he was influenced by Kant, but again, he criticized his solution, calling the distinction between noumena and phenomena a stumbling block, basically. He says that although his concept of the will as the thing in itself, so basically, he has criticized the distinction between phenomena and noumena, and because of this only, the whole knowledge is not possible. That was what is Schopenhauer's criticism. Nietzsche, what he says, he again rejected the very foundation of Kant's metaphysics and epistemology, arguing that ideas like truth, reason, and knowledge are themselves human constructs and no guarantee of correspondence to any reality. So, truth, reason, because Kant has given categories of understanding, through categories of understanding, universal, some universal truths are there, for example, truth, reason, knowledge, etc. So Nietzsche says, no, there is no guarantee of correspondence to any reality, and it may not be true universally also in many cases. Then again, Strawson and Karl Popper have also engaged with Kant's antinomies. Strawson sought to interpret Kant in more analytical terms, while Popper saw Kant's insistence on the limits of reason as overly restrictive to the progress of science. So Kant has limited up to phenomena only. So this was criticized by these philosophers, that he is limiting the knowledge up to phenomena is not a very legally or logically correct thing. Now another important this critique of traditional proofs of existence of God. This in brief we have already studied in previous uh, pages and paragraphs. Now, as I've already told, there are three traditional proofs: ontological argument, cosmological argument, and teleological argument. Kant has criticized and opposed all the three arguments. So, basically, what he says in ontological argument, let us first see. Ontological argument posits that idea of most perfect or most real being must include every possible perfection, including existence. This is what Anselm says. That if there is a perfect being, the idea of perfection itself includes existence. Now, Kant has objected that. Kant says that no, existence is not a real predicate. Existence is not a property or quality that can be added to the concept of a thing to make it more complete. It is a prerequisite for having properties at all, not a property in itself. So this is what Kant's criticism. So therefore, it is only a grammatical predicate and not a real attribute. So therefore, perfection of any being does not include his existence itself. So he has criticized ontological argument. Cosmological argument also again he has criticized, because cosmological argument says that there is a necessity of first cause. God is a first cause. So he says, Kant says that this argument is again dependent on ontological argument, because he uses basically Leibniz argument that existence of contingent beings must be grounded in a necessary being. Existence of contingent beings must be grounded in a necessary being, one whose existence is determined solely by its own nature. So this is what cosmological argument given by Leibniz. So this he has says, Kant says that again it depends on ontological argument. So therefore ontological argument itself is not correct. So cosmological argument again can be opposed. Physiotheological argument, that is design argument, that is teleological argument. Now teleological argument, Kant says yes, the existence of an intelligent designer is maybe there, but it doesn't mean that God is there. So he says that even though a designer may be agreed or word has been designed by God, but it doesn't mean that he is a perfect being. So this is his again a position for the teleological argument. So let us critically evaluate this arguments of the against proofs of existence of Kant's argument. Basically, Kant's reputation of traditional proofs reflects his broader philosophical concepts, because he same thing, phenomenal word and nominal word. So again here also you have to link that only. Anything we can know about phenomenal word only. Regarding nominal word, nominal realm, because God belongs to nominal realm, we cannot know anything, and therefore God cannot be proved by arguments like ontological argument or cosmological argument, or even by teleological argument. So this distinction between phenomena and noumena is very, very important as far as Kant's theories are concerned, because most of the theories are dependent on this only. Now, if we see Kant, even though he says that these arguments cannot prove God, but still, earlier also I have told, because his belief in God is moral necessity. That is, he has given moral argument for existence of God. He says that yes, God exists, but why? Because morality requires that, free will requires that, and therefore God should exist. Now, definitely these kind of arguments will be criticized a lot. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche also, he has challenged this as a very, very evasive kind of argument. Then again, Karl Barth and Paul Tillich, Kant's moral emphasis as an essential turning point in modern theology, because these two philosophers, they supported Kant and they feel that Kant's moral emphasis on, but basically moral argument for God's existence or moral theology is a turning point in modern theology. So Kant has given moral argument for existence of God. Now, what he famously says, that the statement also, let us see, we must assume a God and we must believe in him, even though our reason may not venture to assume. Uh, please, me mute. We must assume a God and we must believe in him, even though our reason may not venture to assume his possibility and existence. So basically, this moral argument for God. Okay, then we'll come to our next phenomena and noumena in Kant's philosophy. This is very important because, as you have seen, this is related to almost all the topics which we have studied. And this is very simple because we have repeatedly gone through this topic, phenomena and noumena. This is written, this is elaborated in his book, Critique of Pure Reason. His theory of transcendental idealism. Now, again, sometimes this question is also asked, transcendental idealism. Now, this phenomena and noumena is very, very central to his theory of transcendental idealism because uh, they see phenomena are objects which we perceive. Noumena we cannot perceive, they are things in themselves. So we can only study phenomena through empirical science and reason. Noumena remains fundamentally unknowable. Fundamentally unknowable means, and what are things in noumena? This God is one thing. So God, or even soul, or other things. I mean, which all these things come in noumena. So therefore, our knowledge is less necessarily limited to the realm of appearances. Now, noumena are necessary concept. They serve as a limiting idea, reminder for our understanding has boundaries. So we cannot think about them. They are objects of thought, not of experience. This is the nominal objects he is telling. Now, he also distinguishes between negative and positive noumena. So this also, because once some short note comes or once the even 15 marks question comes, we have to write that. So he also distinguishes between negative and positive. Negative noumena refers to things abstracted from all sensory experience, what we can conceive but not perceive. Positive noumena, by contrast, would be objects of a non-sensory or intellectual intuition which humans do not possess. Thus, negative noumena serves as conceptual boundary, positive noumena remain as speculative and unknowable. So, relationship between noumena and thing in itself is debated. In fact, Kant has again claimed that such ideas as God, soul, and the word as a whole are nominal ideas. So, I was already telling, God, soul, and this word are nominal ideas, and it cannot be known by human beings or through reason. Now, later philosophers have offered critical responses. Berkeley has denied the existence of a mind-dependent matter. Schopenhauer criticized Kant's use of noumena, arguing that Kant ignored the uh, ancient distinction between abstract and intuitive cognition. Hegel went further, questioning how we can claim the existence of something inherently unknowable. Very important criticism by Hegel. If something is unknowable, how we can say that that thing exists? So, in conclusion, While phenomena from the realm of human knowledge, noumena serves as a philosophical reminder of the limits of reason, ushering in a cautious, critical approach to metaphysics and knowledge itself. So now with this we complete Kant. Uh, Now there are what are the questions which we will discussing next? Again, two questions we will take up. Question one: discuss Kant's Copernican revolution in metaphysics. And then second question: Hume aroused me from my dogmatic slumber. Kant, discuss. This is statement from Kant. So these two uh, questions we are putting for next week. If any student is interested, they can send me the their PDF answers on the mail mentioned here. We'll evaluate and send the feedbacks to their mail. Uh, Now, with this, I conclude today's class. Now, if somebody wants to say something, otherwise, we will close. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you.